I'm in front of a 2017 Ford F-150 with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine. And you can see I am holding a Ford Motor Company crankshaft. Stay tuned. Well, I suppose I should probably go into a little bit of details as to what the scenario is with this vehicle with you guys. This thing is in need of a crankshaft. Obviously, I have a crankshaft here. It's going to be interesting. So, the whole situation in general is interesting. I can only give you so many details, but basically, the gist of it is, the vehicle is at 65,000 miles. It was just over 6,000 miles when the noise started. It had a knocking sound, right? A knock, 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 knock under load. And this was discovered while pulling a trailer with the truck. And being the customer was pulling a trailer and it was knocking, they obviously just got to the nearest destination, which happened to be here because they were close by, and dropped the truck off. But they went to take it in for warranty. So they had a aftermarket warranty. The factory warranty was to 60K, and they had the aftermarket warranty beyond that. The aftermarket warranty company took forever at the dealership to get anything done, to work with the dealership to get the warranty claim in so that they could get an adjuster out to see whether they'd accept the claim or not. Now, this is total hogwash as far as I'm concerned, but basically what happened, the short end of the story is, the warranty was turned down. Why? Because it has an aftermarket hood and aftermarket wheels. What the hell does that have to do with the engine? I don't know. The guy had hail damage, so he replaced the hood. He figured, I'll put a cool looking hood on there. Right? Why not? He had a set of Blizzaks, so he got snow tires, and so he got aftermarket wheels for the summer. Whoopie-doo. No, they turned down the claim because of that. There's a lot more to this backstory, but I'm not going to get into all the other details. But you can see it also has an aftermarket intake. I mean, it's got a couple small things done to it. Not the end of the world. Nothing that would break a crankshaft on a motor. Alright, so I brought it to this point to bring you guys back on camera because I wanted to go over a couple of things quick in regards to this. So while I go over that, I'm going to go ahead and start tearing into this little portion here. But the reason I brought you up here is basically the whole section here that, you know, they say to remove the cab to do the motor on these vehicles, but the reason I say it's not necessary is because the moment you clear out some of the intake stuff, it becomes pretty evident that there's a lot of room to work with this teeny little V6 in this large engine bay. Well, I gotta interrupt myself here. This truck is much different than the predecessor of the other ones that I've done where I didn't pull the cab off. Now, I don't think it's going to change the fact that I'm not going to pull the cab off. But this thing has the, I forgot about this, but it has the vent or the block off for the air-to-air cooler that's in the front here. And that was one of their attempted solutions for that hydrolock scenario. Basically, they were trying to keep the air-to-air exchanger from cooling the air down too much and condensing or having the water condensate inside of it. So they have these little louvers in here that block the grill off. Kind of an interesting setup. Here's the little actuator plug for it. But very, very interesting design. I'm going to have to figure out how to get this thing undone and pulled off of here. It's not looking like it's going to be just a quick, easy thing. I just got to figure out how they attach the darn thing, and then I will get it out of here. But alright, well, back to the fast forward and trying to figure this out. So once I had the air box out of here, you can see there's a huge hollow spot here. Once I remove these two turbocharger intake tubes and all the correlating small plumbing that goes in relation to the turbocharger, there's going to be a ton of room around this engine. And that is why I don't bother pulling the cab off of these vehicles, because that stuff does not take that terribly long to pull out, so it's not really a big deal. And so that's kind of the whole reasoning behind me doing that and suggesting that, and why I'm bringing this video to you guys, because it'll give you an idea of what you can get away with when it comes to doing a motor on one of these, if you happen to be doing a motor on one of these. So I'm gonna keep fighting this little charging cable, but aside from that, obviously I'm getting the front clip off, and we'll get it done here. All right, darn it, Ford. I always have to come up with some kind of silly thing here. So that little grill piece, I didn't have to mess with the front half of it at all. I'll have to put that back together as soon as I get it out. I'm not going to waste time while it's still partially together. I have to pull this guy off on both sides. There are a couple of small screws that hold this little guy on. And then once those are out of there, I should be able to pull this out the rest of the way. Hypothetically speaking, of course. There we go. So once this is out of the way, oh wow, my light's tripping out here. There we go. There's a screw down here, a bolt down here, and that has to come out, then this can be lifted up. There's a couple of tabs here that I noticed that are part of this grill that I was pulling off that I don't need to pull off. But once that's out, I should be able to lift this assembly off of here and then get it out of my way to continue with probably what is going to be the normal teardown of what I'm used to. This is just because of that weird louvered grill that I'll give you guys a better look at here in a minute. Pulled the two, they look like a plastic screw, they're really coarse thread. We're going to go ahead and lift this thing off of here and see how these louvered fins are all set up exactly. Oh, we still got this plastic deal attached here, so let's see if I can quickly take that off. Okay, so let's give you guys a clue as to what this looks like, make sure I don't scratch anything. You can see these things are actual louvers. There's an actuator right here, and then there is this, there you can kind of see it, this arm thing that allows all these to move. So all these guys move in sync. It can open and close these, shut off the grill, kind of like putting a piece of cardboard in front of your grill, I guess. But the pieces I was taking off, there's one here. The nut did not come off of this one. It came off with the plastic. And the other side over there, that one did take the nut off for some reason. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure the rest of this is going to be pretty straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set aside and out of my way. Well, that ended up a much bigger task than I wanted it to be. This little flap of rubber here that is to separate the bumper air cooler area from the regular grill radiator section. This little rubber deal, it's got these Christmas trees going into the bottom of the fan shroud. So that was rather tough to get out of there. I don't know if there's a better way to do it than what I did, but I do know that if I had just taken these off to begin with, I would have had less fighting going on. Both these flaps were kind of a pain in the butt. And then these lines for this oil cooler that's added to the front here, I'd imagine it's an engine oil cooler, I think. Engine or trans, one of the two, I don't know. There's a big distribution block back there, down there with also coolant lines going to it. So it's a heck of a heavy-duty cooler situation going on. Whatever it's for, it doesn't matter. It's in the way. This is the AC condenser. So the AC condenser is also going to be in the way for this job. But my hope, and we'll find out here in a little bit, is that I can just work around this thing. If I can work around this thing, that would be great for the person who's doing this, because it'll save them the effort of sucking down the system and getting rid of it. It means you can do it pretty much at home without having the system sucked down first. But of course, people doing a job like this at home are crazy. This would be a hell of a task to do in a garage without a hoist. So as you can see, I'm removing all these intake tubes right now, and these intake tubes are taking up a ton of space. This engine bay is going to open up an insane amount once those tubes are out of there. So we're getting those tubes out, and then we'll give you guys a better look at what we're dealing with once these tubes are out. There's a lot more room to work with when they're out of there. Alright, so here you have it. This is a vast majority of the hoses, but not all the hoses and tubes that are in this thing. All this stuff has to be removed, and it is a pain in the butt to remove. Now, they over-engineered the ever-living hell out of the cooling system on this thing as far as I'm concerned. I don't know why they need all these heater hoses. I mean, there's 2, 3, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and count them, and then I will be right back. Okay, so right here alone I see 9 different heater hose sized hoses. Not all of them are for heater hoses. This is for the reservoir, of course. But this little section right here, this is pretty much all heater hose except for the main coolant hose right here. I don't know why Ford does this. They do this with a lot of their vehicles where they just have a absolute crap ton of hoses for the heater system when they could just do like everybody else. I don't know why Ford does it the way they do. I don't know. I'm just going to shake my head at that one. But you can see this is one section of hose here. Pretty conglomerate mess. And then here is another section of hose here. I mean, this thing is, it's making a mess, but it's a disaster. The whole thermostat housing assembly alone is way overcomplicated. It does not need to be like that. I don't know why they do this. So there's the cooling system hoses are absolutely ridiculous. Here are some of the intake pipe stuff. So these two are, this one here is a intake tube for the turbo, I believe. Yes, that's an intake tube. One of these is a intake tube. The other one is a charge pipe, I think. I'm missing something. I got something else elsewhere that I'm missing. But there are several hoses and tubes, and you can see, I mean, the size of these things is so big that it takes up a lot of space in the engine bay. So let's go take a look at what it looks like when it's empty. So to give you an idea of how much room is taken up just by hoses alone on this vehicle, and I still don't have all the hoses out. This thing, I'm a 6 foot, 5'11", 180 pound guy, and I'm just sitting in here with room to spare, really. I mean, this is ridiculous. So check this out. This thing has so much room right here. It's just insane. And that's why I'm not necessarily going to pull the cab, because I have plenty of room back here to lift this thing up, and plenty of room this direction to pull it forward to pull this motor out. So now I am to the point where I'm going to start unbolting holding items and then finishing removing the little harness details that I have to remove. I'm going to be pulling it with the turbos attached, and I'm going to do minimum as possible to replace the crankshaft. This whole timing cover stuff up front here is most likely going to have to come off, and I'm still in hopes that I can disconnect the AC compressor, slide it down into this corner down here, and then be able to have room to get the motor out. I should be fine. Looks like I have plenty of room. This line is kind of in an uncomfortable position, but I'm also going to go ahead and pull this battery, and when I pull the battery, I see there's a bracket over here. I might be able to manipulate this hose if I undo the bracket. I'll have to see if there's any soft line back there or not. Other than that, this is one of those jobs that is just insanely labor intensive to do. If you ever have to do this job on your vehicle, you ever have to have the motor pulled on an F-150 like this, the EcoBoost, just be well aware that if you're paying a shop to do it, there is going to be a hell of a service charge to do this. The crankshaft job is almost a 40-hour job. It calls for, I think it was 33.4 or something like that. But 33.4 is, I'm sure, a little on the light side. I'm pretty much positive that's taking it pretty easy. I'm so far 8 hours into the day almost, and I've only gone this far. Now, had I pulled the cab, would this have been faster? I don't know. I honestly don't know, because you still have to disconnect all these hoses to get this out of here. I mean, in reality, I probably would have did all this and then pulled the cab. The only thing I wouldn't have done was pulled the core support. I would have had to disconnect the hoses, and I would have had to lean over way more than the AC condenser to disconnect those hoses. So now all I have to contend with is this AC condenser, and I could pull that out, but I'm trying to do it on video in a way that you could possibly do it at home. If somebody were to watch this video that's doing it at home, they'd have to have some balls to do that, because this is a hell of a job. But if you are doing this at home, more power to you. You have some serious ambition, and high five for that, I guess. All right, so we're gonna call it quits on this episode 1 of taking this thing out. So basically all we did was all the hoses, the majority of the front clip, and I might still pull the front bumper, because my engine hoist, when it comes in here, it's probably going to hit this bumper, and I won't be able to get in far enough to get way back here and pull this motor up. But at the same respect, I could probably extend my engine hoist out and not have any problems. This motor, it's though heavy, it's not that heavy. So if I go beyond the legs of the hoist a little bit, it's not going to flip my hoist over unless I get absolutely crazy with it. So we'll see what I end up with. I might be able to just come in from the side, the fender side, and lift it up that way and then slide it over as well. So I'll see what my options are, but we'll save that again for the next episode. So if you haven't already, hit the like button, like, share, subscribe, and as always, I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching. I am going to continue tearing this thing down and start the next episode.